What we see then during the Paleocene thermal maximum, we see temperatures increase by about 10 degrees centigrade, and in response to that, we see the first horses showing up in North America coming from other continents as it gets really warm over at high latitudes, warm enough to where horses and other animals can cross these high latitude land bridges. And so when they first show up and they have a body size of around 11 pounds or so, and then they decrease that body size down to around 7 or 8 pounds, and then at the end of this interval of warming that lasts about 200,000 years, they increase their body size again fairly rapidly up to about 12 pounds. So we're seeing this very tight correspondence between warming and shifts in body size, and not just in horses, but in 30% of the mammalian species that are around at that time. So one possible cause is that it's a direct effect of temperatures getting hotter, and our data seem to point to that as being the most likely cause, that these hotter temperatures, that it's more optimal for a lot of these animals to have a smaller body size with hotter temperatures. We see that in the world today geographically. If we look at the same animals in the tropics that we have at mid-latitudes and higher latitudes, they're smaller in the tropics where it's warmer, and they're larger at higher latitudes, and that's been called Bergmann's rule. It's a general ecological rule that's followed by about 60 to 70% of the mammals that are around today. So we know that that kind of relationship exists, but the question is, can things adjust quickly enough to really, are we going to see that kind of thing in the near future? And part of what we're seeing in the Paleocene thermal maximum when this happened are really much higher levels of carbon dioxide, as you alluded to. And when we increase carbon dioxide levels, we know from experiments that have been done in greenhouses that you lower the nutritional content of plants. And so that could be another reason, and that's another reason that's been proposed as to why we see the mammals getting smaller at this time, is because there's much higher concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And of course, that's what we're seeing happening now too. We've already increased carbon dioxide levels quite a bit just over the last few decades, and that's projected to continue to increase over the next century. So both of those factors are going to be at play over the next century that were at play back 56 million years ago in the Paleocene thermal maximum. Warming at this time happened over thousands of years. When at the beginning of this event, where it got much hotter, we're looking on the order of 10 to 20,000 years for it to get another 10 degrees hotter, whereas now we're looking on the order of a century or two. So there's a big difference in scale there, and one of the questions is, are we going to see the same kind of response? Is it going to happen so fast? Is warming going to happen so fast? Are the mammals and the birds and things going to be able to keep up with that, to readjust their body sizes through that interval? So here at the University of Nebraska State Museum, we have some reconstructions of some of the earliest horses that show up in North America. And the smallest horses that we see during this interval of global warming, called the Paleocene thermal maximum, are about the size of that little one right there that's laying on the ground, about the size of a modern house cat. These are really, really small horses. When they first show up, they're a little bit bigger, and so then what we see is during this interval, they progressively get smaller, and our geochemical proxies show us that climate is getting warmer, and so there's a tight correspondence between climate warming and their body size. So some of the smallest horses that ever lived are about the size of that little one right there.